Alright, the Beat Saber official mapping critique series is in full swing now. I just finished with Timbaland not too long ago, and we are doing things in reverse chronological order. So obviously Camellia is next. It's a little bit different in terms of ordering of how these are being released because Crystallized, Cycle Hit, and What the Cat were initially released before the rest of these three songs, and they were put in extras instead of having its own dedicated pack. It was released sometime after Imagine Dragons, if I'm not mistaken, and then Exit the Earth's Atmosphere, Ghost, and Light It Up were all released after the Rocket League song pack came out. Or no, excuse me, after the Green Day song pack came out. For those of you unfamiliar with this series, I like to dedicate the first 5 to 10 minutes to talk over the entire design of the song pack as a whole before we dive into each individual map. So let's start off with this, Camellia as an artist. For those of you unfamiliar with Camellia, Camellia is an independent artist known mostly for mapping really fast songs, but somehow still pleasant sounding most of the time. And he's been really popular in the rhythm gaming community, particularly in Beat Saber and in Osu, among other games. A lot of the community mappers really like Camellia as an artist because it allows them to map something that's challenging, but somehow still sounds good and pleasing to listen to. When this did initially come out with the first three songs here, Crystallized, Cycle Hit, and What the Cat, a lot of people were relatively happy overall with the mapping. Some people had issues with Cycle Hit and What the Cat, but most of those were not really in regard to the mapping itself. With the exception of What the Cat, I think people legitimately had issues with the mapping and that, although I quite liked it. I do have a bit different tastes than most people, so do keep that in mind. But most of the issues on these first three initial tracks had to do with the speed at which the notes approached you. They were just not quite right, and as a result, made the maps harder than they realistically needed to be. It artificially increased the difficulty, thus making the maps less pleasing to play. When I did do the initial mapping critique series, I did make a video on these three maps, showcasing how just slight tweaks to the note jump speed, the speed at which the notes approach you, and the offset, which determines how far back the notes spawn in, can make a huge difference in the playability and enjoyability of these maps. And pleasant to my surprise, the devs actually took that feedback and implemented it into the game not soon after the videos came out. So it's not necessarily an echo chamber, as some of you might, believe that Beat Games doesn't take any feedback. You just have to approach it correctly and give actionable feedback, point at specific things that you don't like or think could be improved upon, and approach them in a respectable way. Try not to be overtly hostile. They will take your feedback seriously because they want to make the game as good as possible. A lot of us want the game to be as good as possible, especially myself. Another thing to keep in mind in terms of design with the Camellia song pack is the environment of it. So starting with starting with the release of the Pop Stars track in Beat Saber, we started getting new environments tailored to either the song specifically or to the song pack as a whole. So when OST Volume 3 came out, we actually got a brand new environment which all of these maps used. It is called Origins. Probably my favorite platform to this day, actually. But ever since OST Volume 3 came out, it became almost something expected. For example, actually Monster Cat was the first, now that I think about it, because OST Volume 3 came out afterwards. So actually Monster Cat set this precedent with the Monster Cat platform. So this set the precedent, and we've been seeing it for all of the song packs. So Imagine Dragons has its own. If we look here, we'll see Dragons, which was made exclusively for that. Panic at the Disco has its own one as well. People quite like that one as well. Rocket League has its own. Green Day also has its own. You can see it actually has two. It has Green Day and Day Grenade. They're just two slightly different versions of each other. And Timbaland has one as well right here. And the Camellia song pack, curiously enough, does not have its own custom platform, which is kind of disappointing to see. I do know that Jan, his nickname is Split, so some of you might know him as that. He is the one who I believe develops the platforms for the environments in Beat Saber. And he usually works pretty quick on it. But I know he does have a system set up to where he can simultaneously view the lighting for different environments. So let's say he could look at the first Origins Triangle Nice environment all at the same time playing in sync and view the lighting. And I believe he does that. I'm pretty sure he at Twitter at some point he mentioned something like that. But it appears he can simultaneously view them and then pick the best environment to suit the lighting that the mapper, aka level designer, has chosen. And that's how they choose it. And you can see that across all of these maps, they all use a different platform. But I am kind of disappointed to see that it doesn't have its own dedicated one at this point. Hopefully it does come in the future, because I believe personally, and I think a lot of the community will share this opinion with me, that overall this is the most fun song pack out of all of them. A really nice song selection, really difficult. The hardest difficulty is extra hard, but there's still easier difficulties as well, so it has a good range of difficulties to play from. So just kind of something I personally want to see in the future. And I also just noticed something not long ago, but in the pictures, if you select any song pack right here, it'll show a big cover art picture. And I don't know if anyone's pointed this out, but it looks like there's a parallax effect. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's not completely just a flat image. You can kind of see that parallax effect if you move the headset. Just something I want to point out that I noticed not long ago. That's basically it for design. There is one last thing I wanted to point out, however. If you look at the spelling on these, so exit this Earth's atmosphere, this is on purpose. This is just a stylistic thing that Camellia does as an artist. However, they are not consistent across the board. For example, if you look at Ghost, it's actually supposed to be all capitalized. If you look on the internet, people are going to always spell it differently. But if you want the actual spelling of it, you would ask Camellia himself how it's supposed to be spelled, and we do have an answer for that. If you look on his Bandcamp page, the spellings of all of these are laid out very clear on his albums. So Ghost is supposed to be all capitalized. Light It Up is actually correct. That's how he spells it. A Crystallized actually is supposed to have the C lowercase. Cycle Hit and What the Cat are correct. So even when they have something correct like Light It Up, they remember to lowercase the I and the U. They forget to make Ghost all capital and the C and Crystallized lowercase. So I just want to see some more consistency across the board with that. And they haven't always been super consistent with how they name things anyway. If you look at OST Volume 3, look at Origins featuring Mutrix. If you look at other songs, feat Kenny Lane, but there's a difference here. There's no parentheses, but there's parentheses here. Even with One Hope feat David Binney, and if you also go to Timbaland feat Jake Davis, same thing. There's no parentheses. OST Volume 1, feat Summer Haze, feat Tiny C. Even remix tracks, I think Squeepo Remix is the only one that uses a remix name in the subname. Also no parentheses. Feat Mutrix is still there to this day. I've already given them feedback on this, and they haven't put it in the build of the game. And that's something you're going to see, even in the Ghost mapping, is that you can sometimes point things out to them, and they'll realize that it's an issue, but they will still fail to put it in the final release of the game. And it's been this way for quite a while, actually. Things that are mission critical, though, however, they do fix. For example, What the Cat did have an up note, had a double up in it, breaking flow, and they fixed that the next day, I believe. So things that are mission critical, they seem to act on super quickly, but minor things like the spelling of names and consistency. They don't really seem to care about. Crystallized does have a consistency issue in the mapping as well. Kaival Evan is another mapper. He was actually the one who pointed this out to us. But without further ado, we're going to get into the first map, Exit This Earth's Atmosphere. This is probably my favorite song out of all these listed up here. It was mapped by Great Yazer, believe it or not. It's not his style that we're familiar with at all. But we're going to jump into it, and I'll give you my opinions as we go. Alright, you're already going to notice the speed of this song. Oh, forgot practice mode. So, we're already starting out really quick. So, these are the fastest tracks so far at 20 note jump speed, which prior to the Camellia songs was unused in the official mapping. The community has taken high note jump speed values in stride, though. Use it almost to a fault sometimes, making really slow songs way faster than they need to be. But something to point out, this is going to set a precedent for basically all the songs to follow in the song pack. Water is on standby. By the way, these songs can get pretty intense. Funny enough, I actually thought Ruckus mapped this one at first, because it's just so weird. And you'll see a lot of the weird stuff coming up. Alright, first thing I want to point out, this transition isn't really great. It works. And I know, that one right there in the top row, Great Yazer uses that a ton. Something you'll notice about him. And usually he makes it work, but the BPM in this is just slightly too high. And that transition isn't the greatest. Something you're already going to notice about this, if you are an aficionado of Beat Saber, there's already left-handed streams. If you don't know what that means, a stream is any pattern that's relatively quick, and it is alternating down, down, up, up. What makes something a right-hand stream is if you start either down or up with the blue saber in this order. So let's say we start with the blue hand going down, and then the red hand going down, and then alternating as you would. So that would be considered a right-hand stream. If you were to start this hand up, and then blue down, and then red down, that's also considered a right-hand stream to some people. Some people might consider that ambidextrous. It just depends on how you feel as a player. But most people would consider that a right-handed stream first. This is already doing right-handed streams where the down starts with the blue, followed by the red down, and there's already parts with the left going down and the right going down. And that's all fine. But as you're going to notice throughout the entirety of this map, it switches up quite a bit, does provide a good challenge, and allows the player to do something that they frequently don't do in most mappings. But from a gameplay design perspective, this map seems to skew in the left-hand favor just very slightly. And the issue I find with that is there's already a setting in the game. It's called left-handed mode. And what it does is it mirrors the entire map. So if a stream were normally to start with the blue hand or the right hand, will now start with the red hand or the left hand. So it's just from a gameplay perspective, it's not entirely consistent with this definition. There are still parts in this song that extend on really long as a right-handed stream, that if you were to play with left-handed mode to make it quote-unquote actually right-handed, would make it more difficult to play still. I think when you're mapping and you have an option in your game called left-handed mode, you should honor that mode as a true left-handed mode. And this isn't the only track that has this issue. The other tracks that we see are a lot of the OST Volume 1 tracks that have, particularly the ones mapped by Benny. I think Benny mapped Commercial Pumping. He mapped something else up here too. I think he mapped Legend, if I'm not mistaken, or was it $100 bills? He mapped one of them, but you can tell it's him because all of his streams are almost exclusively left-handed. And when we get to OST Volume 1, we will have a ton of information to talk about regarding that. But back to this one. I needed to point out the left-handed streams early because it's going to be a small theme throughout these songs. And it already starts out good with that spreading, with that big boom sound. streams so far are pretty good. Although I did mention the left-handed streams being like an issue, quote unquote, I personally don't have much of an issue with it. Oh my god. Alright, let's do that again. I was talking over that. I consider myself a lot better at left-handed streams than most people. So it doesn't bother me nearly as much, but when we go to Ghost, it becomes slightly more of an issue. Oh, tracking. We gotta, sorry guys, we gotta redo it again. That part is really difficult to read. Right there. And it's pretty cool. Let's see exactly what's going on here. It's super difficult to read though. Not this part. This part is fine, and I quite like it. Yeah, it's really hard to read, and also the fact that we have technically inline notes right here. So we have the red saber going, here, I'll show you. So the right hand is going up and the red is then going down. And this makes it technically an inline stream. The issue with that is you're gonna get some saber collisions, not necessarily a hand smack or a controller smasher pattern, but more so the fact that the hitbox of the saber, when you hit the wrong color with it. So for example, this red right here, or actually the blue that I just hit that's up, because I'm preparing my hand to come down, I might accidentally hit that blue note. It is important to note that the hitboxes on bad cuts, which is anytime you hit the wrong color cube with the, let's say like the blue one right here, I hit with the red, the hitbox for actually hitting that and counting as a bad cut is a lot smaller. I believe it's the exact same size as bombs, if I'm not mistaken. But with this little inline stream right here, that becomes kind of a big issue right here. And also the fact that, oops, I broke the plug-in again. And also the fact that this is a left-handed stream. You can see. Is it alternating? Yeah, it's a left-handed stream all the way through. Is already gonna upset some people. So my recommendation is to mix up the stream. And what I would do to mix it up and make that bad cut issue slightly less of an issue is what I would do is instead of having like the first example I pointed out, this right going up, I would have it in the very top row and I would have the red over here as a diagonal, and I think that would greatly increase the player's chance to not bad cut it. I think you can keep this as a left-handed stream if you just change that little thing. But I'm a lot more forgiving on lefty streams than most people, and most people are going to say just make it a righty stream. So. So far, that's the biggest feedback I have to give so far. There are bombs in this that are quite well placed. Probably the best out of all the maps. These reds are really, 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 really far out. I'm going from here to that cut right there. It's not comfortable at all. And maps don't necessarily have to be comfortable. Yeah, that's the worst defender right there, that transition. So let's play that one more time. Yeah. That up in the top row, followed by that diagonal cut, is just... I don't think you can justify that in any context. I know Beat Games, especially Freak in particular, likes to perfect his maps where everything is placed in just the right position, and this just isn't at that point. I think a lot of these need to be shuffled around, but I think the actual how you're switching between left and right hands is just fine. It's just the placement of the notes. And I really like that double too, that one that we just saw right there. We don't see that often. Usually we see stuff like that in OST Volume 1, but I'm glad to see that Yazer made a weird taboo pattern like that work right here. But I will make one comment about this entire section. If you do play this multiple times, it becomes much easier. But I have not played this map in a super long time since it was initially released. So this is almost like a sight read for me. When I played the Timbaland songs, I played all of them prior. For this one, I did not. Just because I don't want to be sweating. And this is probably one of the best parts of the song. This part just before the drop, and these bombs are fantastic. I really love the placement of them. And then this little build right here is great as well. Again, one of the best parts of the song, or the mapping in my opinion, is the section. And then it's the lefty right there. So we're going back to that lefty thing, and that's a pattern throughout this. Again, it's fine, but you have an option in the game that says left-handed mode, and if that doesn't fulfill its purpose, then I think you're breaking an element of the game design. Again, Yazer pattern, he likes to have you do that horizontal swing, followed by a scoop to reset. When he first started doing that type of pattern, he didn't condition the player at all to really set up for it, but a lot more often you'll see him placing those bombs to force you to reset, and he staggers them accordingly so you don't clip them on accident. So really good design decision by him. This part is really sassy as well. I really enjoy it. This is a weird part, but it actually works. I actually sort of recall this part, but on a sight read, this is super difficult. Right here, right there. Oh, tracking was gone for a moment. Right there. It almost looks like a controller collision, but it works okay. So just all of these patterns right here are just slightly not correct. Some things just need to be adjusted just so slightly, but it would result in the biggest impact on this if you were just to tweak some of these. Yeah, I'll give it the benefit of a doubt. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to change my grip style. I almost always play using the standard grip, and it works for the majority of maps that I play, but in this case I'm going to choke my hands up on the grip a little bit further, which is more commonly what a lot of the higher ranked players do, so I'm going to do that. That transition to that sharp horizontal red note that's facing outward doesn't really work. I do like sharp angle transitions when you set up for them properly. They can be really satisfying. But right there, it was just really sharp. Something I would fix. And right now, it's a mirror of the pattern. And that was super weird too. I like really weird stuff that stands out. That's cutting it kind of close. I can barely manage it, just barely, without. Actually, it's probably fine. It's kind of cool. But on a sight read, that's gonna mess with a lot of people. And that's one of my favorite little movements in this. So the vocalist in this has a really weird sound to his voice, either just whoever sang it or how Camellia mixed it in production, but it sounds really interesting. And I love that little transition where it's like, whoa, here, I'll play it again. Right there, it feels really cool. So right there we had what many would consider wrist reset. All right, so what we had before that. So we had this is a backhand into a forehand and then into another forehand. It works here because there's a musical pause though. Do keep that in mind. It's only blocking vision for the left half of the lanes. Stuff's placed over here, so everything's fine. You just have to be ready for that scooping motion right here. Sometimes you can reset the player's hands using bombs, but because this particular stack is blocking the left hand, it would block the bombs immediately after, so it's not something Yazer could have really done here. But some people will complain. I have enough time personally to react to it and reset my hands accordingly. But the offender right there is that up note that crossed right over. That's gonna really hurt sight reading, but I played it just fine. I'm kind of on my toes already at this point. Ooh, and I really love that, how that was handled. What feels like a time signature change. All right, one last time. We're going to play through this in slow motion because I want to show you something. So normally when you have some kind of either tempo change or time signature change, you want to do something different than you've done in previous parts of the map to show players, hey, this rhythm is going to be different from what you're expecting so far. So it looks like in this case, instead of Yazer doing some weird kind of hand alternation, he just went red, blue, alternating all the way through and repeat. But he decided to put walls there to kind of stagger your vision around and really pay attention to what's going on. So that was his way of handling that section, and it works pretty well. And then repeat of patterns from before. This isn't really a sight read now because I'm used to these patterns at this point, so it's becoming much easier for me to hit them. From gameplay design, you may desire this to make it initially difficult and expecting the player to get better at it as you repeat it. But I prefer songs to be instantly gratifying in most situations. Again, excellent bomb resets from before, probably the best out of all the official maps. That's actually kind of interesting. I usually really hate those wide crossovers. Yazer has done them in the past, and I really hated them. but this one actually works pretty well. I'll see why it feels a little bit better. So this is why this one feels slightly better. This hand is in the middle row going straight up, whereas this hand is going a diagonal in the far right. This makes that crossover much less likely to smash your hands together, partly because this is on a different row entirely than the left hand, and also because it's going in a different direction completely. So this is going straight up, whereas this is a diagonal, so he's setting this pattern up a lot better than I've seen them do in the past. And that's really the secret to setting up those wide crossover patterns, is having the hands in slightly different directions. So similar stuff from before, just with walls added, because it's trying to say this is more intense than before. Again, lefty streams all over the place. And finally, we have a righty streams right here, and it's actually throwing me off now. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed overall. Not necessarily because it's lefty, just because some of the angles needed to be done better. Some of the placement of blocks could have been better. It's more challenging as a result, but I think it's artificially challenging more so than it needs to be. Ghost is an actual challenge. It doesn't really have artificial difficulty except for like one moment in the entire song, and this one just has artificial difficulty all over the place, where it doesn't need to be. They almost always release good completed maps regularly, but this one feels like it's still a work in progress map and not quite finished, and I'm not sure why they released this one. Even a lot of people would consider Great Yazer to be the best among the mappers. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do enjoy his overall style. This one doesn't really feel like him, and a lot of people don't like this as much anyway. I just realized this says Atomosphere. Let me check if that's correct. Okay, apparently that's correct. I thought it was Atmosphere this whole time. Alright, so now we're stepping up to the big boy after that one. We're doing Ghost. For those unfamiliar with Ghost, it became popular in the custom community after Dankrupt Memer mapped it. Pretty decent map. And then he started a series where wherever this player named Tai Chi would complete the map, he would make another version of it, but harder. And Tai Chi, being probably the best player in the world, overall, not necessarily the best at one particular thing, but overall, seemingly the best player in the world, would keep just beating the maps no matter how hard he made it. And it's gotten to, I think, the 8th rendition of Dankrupt Memer's Ghost map. And it's so ridiculously hard that Dankrupt Memer had to put in like just objectively bad mapping practices from a gameplay design standpoint in order to fail Tai Chi out, but Tai Chi still manages to beat them. And the cool thing about this Ghost map is it actually feels like it takes inspiration from Dankrupt Memer's original Ghost map, which people quite liked. But I think this is still a better version overall. Some people disagree because this is even harder than Dankrupt Memer's version, which is already pretty difficult. This has the highest no per second count in the entire base game. I'm gonna wait for the music to die down. And what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of custom songs might say 10 notes per second, and you might instantly think this one should be easier because it says 8.69, but a lot of those custom maps that say 10 notes per second have an artificially inflated note per second count because they use a lot of mapping practices that aren't embraced by beat games, such as sliders, as well as a very liberal use of stacks in Windows. And even though Freak does use stacks in Windows quite a bit, he doesn't use them nearly as much as a lot of those custom maps that are 10 notes per second. So this being 8.69 is still a lot more difficult than you would expect at first glance. It seems this is scaling in accordance to this one, which I think is like 5.6 or something like that. So that linear scale, you're going to feel it all the way through with this. It has the highest note count, I believe. I think Cycle Hit might have something close. No, not even close, but Ghost is really a challenge. But I do want to talk about left-handed streams during this again, and a little bit of the intro portion and something at the end that somebody caught that still isn't fixed to this day, I believe. Oops, I need practice mode. So I'm going to initially play this without no fail, but I suspect I might need it just because I'm already sweating a little bit. I did practice this earlier, and I was able to get past the part where I typically die, which is around 1:30. It's the last stream in that section, which switches over to lefty. I can do that part in a vacuum, but when I play the whole map out and I'm getting tired by that point, it's difficult for me to do. So we'll see if I can do it today. If I fail it, I'll just switch to no fail and we'll try it again. Also important to keep in mind, the note jump speed on this is even higher. It's 22, which is the highest in the base game so far. Oh, I'm losing tracking. Let's try that one more time. Before I hit continue again, I do want to point out a lot of people seem to have an issue with this rhythm. When I first played it the very first time, I did have issues as well, but on my second playthrough, I picked it up pretty quick. It's not too hard to recognize, but if you watch a lot of people play this map for the first time, they seemingly just cannot keep up with that rhythm. And I've watched a lot of players who are even better with me, seemingly can't do it for some reason. Maybe they just haven't memorized the rhythm, or it really throws them for a loop and they're just expecting alternating all the way through. Not sure, but something to keep in mind. So we're going to continue again from there. All right, I did lose tracking, but this transition right here, I always seem to miss one note. I have been able to FC this map up until about a minute, 10 seconds in the past, but something about that transition there I almost always miss it. I always miss that transition almost no matter what. I think maybe something could be tweaked there to make it easier. I don't know if I can accurately describe this, but I did find something a couple months ago that helps you transition those kind of streams horizontally over to the side very, very easily. And while it's easy to sight read and it's very comfortable. Basically what you do is you have, during the stream, the right hand is alternating on the far right lane, alternating between the very bottom row and the middle row. And the left saber is alternating between the second row and the third row, with on the right, on the third row, it's going up. And on the row right here, which is the second row, it's going down. So if you just basically do that, this motion right here, it's very comfortable for the player. It's really easy to sight read, and it's very hard to collide sabers during it. So maybe do something like that instead. Oh. Tracking is gone again. Tracking's been really bad for me today. I have the Oculus Touch controllers, and I do have that issue with if I swing too fast, the controller battery will lose connection. Oops, we don't want to go quite that far back. Another thing that I seemingly miss the majority of the time, except when I'm hyper-focused, is going from this horizontal up in the top row down into this one right there. I almost always seem to miss that, except when I'm really hyper-focused on F-seeing the beginning of this map. I had a solution for fixing this particular issue. I had a map not too long ago where I believe I had a diagonal up instead, and I believe that fixed it if I'm not mistaken, but might not hurt to tweak that around. But of course, this map is already released. The chance of it getting changed after the fact is very slim, except for one thing which still isn't fixed. If I recall correctly, that needs to be fixed. Oh, this part too. So first time I played this was the part that kept killing me over and over. And the solution to this stream is quite easy. So the solution for the stream that time around is you have to be prepared for it, first of all. And second of all, you'll see some of them are diagonal, some of them are grounded. Whenever that diagonal stream comes up, you have to angle your body. If you don't angle it, you're more likely to miss them a ton. And during those streams that are all grounded, you have to physically lean over to that side. If you do that, that stream becomes much easier to do. Oops, tracking's going crazy again. So during this little section right here, by the way, we're going to be pausing a lot because Freak did a lot of interesting things with the syncopation on this and with the hands changing dominance a lot. It's probably one of the most artistic maps out of all the maps in the base game. Again, that whole section was really well thought out, plays really well. Just have to be prepared for it. So anytime you hear that boom sound, Freak has opted to instead use that hand exclusively to hit that note. And then as we transition back into just that, it's not a synth really, but it's an electric sound. I don't know what to call it, but when we get back to the lead instrument, we're back to the left hand. So this is basically a single saber stream. It's not very difficult. I really like single saber streams when they're done right. The biggest issue that I see is people have a negative perception of it from the custom community. Usually when people in the custom community do it, they're going all over the place. But this one, he's kept the notes relatively close to each other, so it's pretty manageable. But this will mess up a lot of people. Particularly that part where we have a down note transition up 2 lanes over into the up. That's the part that usually messes with people if it's not the part where you're hitting the bass sound. Oh, it's just 1 lane over actually. And that's the first really, really cool pattern we see in this map is those windows. It was the moment where I was like, this is pretty cool. We have dots for some reason. I think they're supposed to go to the sound of something. So I was talking about sharp transitions earlier with the Yazer's map. I didn't really like them in that one, but in this map, they're set up just fine and they feel good to play. And that little transition there, going all the way from there to a straight down over here, it's an inline. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like the best place for that note to be. Just another little detail that I really enjoy. Again, adjust your body for this stream, and it shouldn't be an issue. Freak does admit he overmapped this section, but it was on purpose. right here. And here is the famous windmill pattern from this song. Right here, it really starts to work on your arms. So that was a really fast lefty stream. Like I said, I can handle it a lot better than most players. It's still gonna get to people, but it works a lot better than Yazer's stream in the last map. And here's the part that kills me. Right here. Right here, actually. Okay, so I actually did it that time without failing. But I'd say about 40% of the time well, actually more like 60% of the time I fail that. I fail it so often, in fact, and it's so early on in the song that I don't get to enjoy the rest of it. It is better that it's straight up front. Hold on, I'm gonna grab water real quick. Water was on standby. Lenses were really foggy too. At least it's early on in the song that if you fail it, you don't feel cheated out because it's such a long song. But you are gating people off from what I consider to be a super good map overall. Just with that lefty stream right there, the one that's within the wall section, and you're doing the piano streams, I think is perfectly fine. Even though it's going to fail out a lot of people, that one that comes right after, where you're going all the way from the bottom to the top, is the one that I think you might want to consider changing, just because it's going to gate people out of such a good map overall. Just something to consider. So those inline streams are actually really good right here, even though majority of people don't like it. It's done really well in this map. And I also like how during the piano, I remember in it's a harpsichord, I believe. That piano, I think it's a harpsichord, is he's mapped it right onto the notes, even when they're slightly staggered just by like 1/8 of a step. That's taken into consideration with the syncopation of the mapping, and I enjoy that little detail. Don't chastise me if it's actually not a harpsichord. This is another part that messes up a lot of people too, because it's basically a polyrhythm. Oh, tracking. This part messes up with a lot of people too, because what a lot of people don't realize is it's actually just 1/2 of a step. So you're supposed to swing both hands at the same time. But Freak is employing a technique I like to refer to as spreading the eyes. When you put notes so far away from each other on opposite sides of the lanes, it's hard to tell if they're at the same timing or not. It makes the map harder than it needs to be, sure. But if you're prepared for it, it's not too difficult. So I think it's somewhat justified here. When things are artificial difficulty that you're not prepared for, that's where I see an issue. Again, the base hits are to the left hand here. And polyrhythm here, my tracking's going crazy. My tracking, I just can't win. Maybe if I get an index someday, it might be a lot better. Pardon. Oh, I'm way behind. I was almost at 3 minutes in. Oh, he changed it. Okay, cool. So, originally when this map first came out, we didn't have the slanted windows mechanics that we had previously. And what happens if you do a window note where it's two notes of the same color separated by one space or two spaces in some scenarios? If you put them at an angle like up here and down there, as long as they're the same direction, either going straight down, diagonals, etc., they'll face each other. When this map originally came out, that mechanic was not in the game, so dots were employed instead, and dots you can hit any direction, so it mimics the same effect. It's just these are set in stone now. So that is something that's been put in the map since the release. Oh, that right there. That's the thing that apparently isn't supposed to be there. I'm going to slow it down, or else it'll be difficult to see. Right there, that note placement, the controller paths are obviously colliding there. So Tai Chi actually FC'd this song a while ago, and didn't seem to bother him there. It was pointed out in the Beat Saber modding group Discord, confirmed by Freak himself. It wasn't supposed to be like that, apparently. So I'm guessing because those dots have been changed for the slant windows now, and that's still there, I'm guessing at this point he just decided, it's fine. But something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, this shows up in a couple maps. This one included. I'll show you. This right here, that it spawns in really weird just because how the spawn rotation mechanic works when notes spawn in. So horizontal and upward facing notes will rotate as they spawn in order for that note combination not to have the models of the blocks clip into each other. They have to spawn in that way, and it really throws me for a loop, and I don't quite enjoy it. It kind of scratches the OCD in my brain a lot. But it has to spawn in that way based on the spawning mechanic of the game, unless they adjust it for specific scenarios like that. But that's just the way it has to be unless they make changes to how spawning mechanic works. Oh, let's go back to 100%. That whole drop was really well done overall. And also, the way that the hand alternated in that section back there was just perfect. The way it switches from red to blue with the musical tones. Easy to read while still being a lot more taboo from the traditional alternating blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, repeat. I don't think those dots were necessary. Oh wait, am I crazy? So some of these dots were changed, but some weren't, so that it does confuse me a little bit. I guess maybe it's a stylistic kind of thing, but moving on. Those were the dots I was talking about. Also, a really cool part of that song was that little switch up right there. It's just the way that windows are used in this map overall that really, really pleases the creativity in my brain. I'm gonna play that little section again. I remember Ruckus did something similar in his big full map, but I remember that being like almost perfectly placed. This feels a little off. It's not quite right. Something is just a little bit off about it. I think I'm starting to understand why these are dots now. So if you notice those 3 dots in the bottom, that were all blue, that was intended to be hit horizontally. You can't hit that down because it's 3 notes. I mean, technically you could if you swing the right way, but it's meant to be hit horizontal. And if you made them all arrow notes, you are very likely to cut the first block in that triple stack kind of off and would cause you to miss it particularly. So I'm starting to understand why these are all dots now. And these transitions are really well done. Ooh, yeah. Oh. Tracking. I did it a bit better that time, but it's still not quite right. Sorry for the Discord pings, guys. I forgot to silence them. Yeah. That one red note I really wanted to hit as a diagonal really badly. That was just what my body was telling me to do at that time. Sometimes the notes will jump back when you come out of practice, and sometimes they won't. Let's just hit no fail just in case this time. We'll do it one last time. It's almost over. Now that I practiced that section a few times that the directions are a bit more natural, I really like this stream as well. The final half of this map is the best in my opinion. Again, no real issue for lefty streams with me. Just how you employ them. There were some vision blocks on the right-hand side back there as well. Repeats from earlier. The last half of that map really slaps. Just the little small things. The issue with this is that it's so hard. I know Freak can't find a lot of reliable test players, excuse me, to play that map. Also note that at the end of the song, it sounds like they mixed it to cut off like the intro that was originally in the song, and it drags on for like an extra minute. I'm guessing Umbro was their test play guy because he seemed to be the most skilled. I'm gonna drink some water again real quick. Yeah, I dragged a 5-minute map out to like 25 minutes. But yeah, just fix those things. In my opinion, they should be fixed. That were in this map. I just think you're really gating people out at that 1 minute 30-second mark with that lefty stream that goes super high. You can keep it a lefty stream, but I would just change the pattern, even though you're trying to stay consistent to the previously established righty stream. and you're at least making it easier by doing the ready half of the stream first so you memorize it by the point you do it again, I think you could still make it a tad easier, and you would greatly approve people's overall opinions on that map, because I do see the Expert Plus map of this talked about a lot. And if you want to say, oh, well, if you can't be Expert Plus, there's still Expert, which has a high note per second count as well, a lot higher than almost any other map. The issue with Expert Plus, though, is it's not fun. I played it before. The first time I failed, the second time I failed Expert Plus, I went to Expert. And I was like, well, maybe this is what's intended for me. So I played Expert, and it's just not a fun map, and the Expert Plus overall is so well done and so well thought out that I think Freak skimped a lot of time on the Expert map. It just doesn't feel good in comparison. Not even remotely close to Expert Plus. A lot of the Expert map like grounds you in the center, and it plays like, it's like a Guitar Hero map where you just have lanes, but it's not taking advantage of this is VR, move your body left or right. The Expert map is just mostly like hitting notes while centered. There's not a lot of fun parts in it overall. And the note jump speed is 16. So for the Camellia maps, a lot of the Expert maps are Expert because they're supposed to be harder than the baseline of every other map because the songs are so damn fast in comparison to everything else. And that's a step in the right direction, but it's not far enough. Every easy, normal, and hard map across all of the baseline official maps are all 10. And then they only change starting at Expert and even higher at Expert Plus. The issue with this is that the way it's mapped right now is Freak, at least Freak I know of, will map Expert Plus at 100% of the note budget, quote-unquote note budget, and then Expert will have 80% of that, hard will have 60%, normal will have 40%, easy will have 20%. That's a pretty good way to do it, and it's not always consistent across every map. Like Crystallized, for example, the Expert and Expert Plus almost have the same amount of notes. But when you do that and you scale it from 8.69 notes per second down to 20% approximately at the easy difficulty, the issue you run into is at the hard difficulty. You have a map that has 4.13 notes per second, and it's at 10 note jump speed, which is ridiculous, especially when you look at, just recently I played the Timbaland song pack. This has 4.9. Has Meaning has 4.99, almost 5 notes per second, slightly more than the one I just pointed out, and it has 15 note jump speed compared to 10. Just the gap in that is ridiculous. I want to see across the board. We're trying to get the song preview to cancel. I'll wait for it to stop. Okay, I want to see easy and normal stay at 10 like they already are, but then I want them to scale the note jumps, or the note jump speed starting from hard up to the maximum at Expert Plus. So let's say this is 22 and normal is 10, right? So we have 22. That's a difference of 12 between normal at 10 and Expert Plus at 22. So that's a 12 note jump speed difference. If we divide that value by 3, because we have 3 difficulties right here, this should be 14, and this should be 18 note jump speed. That's just the way I think they should do it in the future, and I hope they will consider that change in the future. I know Freak has expressed to the developers of the game that he wants hard to have a higher note jump speed than it currently does. That's a change I would like to see made, as note per second count has gone up and up almost consistently across song pack releases. It's gotten to the point where the base game design has to change at some point, because you can't just change one aspect without tweaking another that it relies on. So just my feedback for that. Expert isn't really fun. I think it should be remapped. Note jump speed isn't high enough either for me personally to find enjoyable. I would like to see the notes per second on this be more like 7.5, because I feel like a lot of stuff was cut just to meet that quota of this needs to be 80% of Expert Plus. But just my opinion, but I have a feeling a lot of people agree with that. All right, next map, Light It Up. This one is done by Ruckus. When these 3 songs came out as the entire song pack for Camellia, a lot of people preferred this one the best, and it's not because it's the best map. Some would consider it the best map. I probably consider it the best map overall just because it's immediately satisfying to play. But the main issue is that you came out with Ghost, which has that really high difficulty spike at 1 minute and 30 seconds in. At least they did it right at the intro, so they don't screw you over right at the end. But it's still gating people off from an otherwise great map. And then Exit This Earth's Atmosphere just feels like a work in progress map to this day. And then Light It Up comes out, and it's an immediately fun, gratifying map, good sound, not really a lot of difficulty spikes, and it just feels smooth across the board. But I'm going to go ahead and say it before I play this map. I really don't have many complaints about it at all. The only thing it's lacking is some of Ghost's like really crazy stuff that it has in it. But Light It Up does have a lot of creative moments. It's just not as crazy as Ghost feels. But it does fit the sound of the song. Ghost is a really crazy song. Light It Up is a bit more pleasant on the ear. So let's do that one next. Oh, let me check if I'm still on no fail, because I definitely do not need it for this map. Yep, no fail's turned off. Let's go practice mode. I'm probably not going to be talking a lot during this one, because it's obviously good. Not really nothing to complain about. It's mostly just going to be me praising this map more than likely. So that was a funny lyric moment. You can hear the vocalist saying triangles in it. Maybe they could have used the triangle environment for this one. That would have been funny. Or alternatively, you could have done a note pattern placement that the custom community calls a triangle. It's basically when you have a stream type pattern where you alternate hands, and you have a moment where you're hitting either forehand into forehand hit with the same hand, or backhand into backhand, etc. And you're usually doing this by manipulating diagonals. That would have been something funny, but a lot of people would have picked up on it and would have been like, this map has a triangle in it. Syncopation is good, rhythm is good, hand alternation is good, patterns flow. I actually thought this map was made by Yaser at first, and Exit This Earth's Atmosphere was by Ruckus. There is one part though that really makes you say, yeah, this was Ruckus, and I'll point it out. So that's the first time we ever see what I call a bomb strip in any of the maps. It's when you have a row of bombs that go across the entire 4 lanes, the entire 4 columns at the same exact time. I call that a bomb strip. And it's the first time we ever see that. It's something the community uses a lot, and I considered it to be a really lazy mapping practice. I like it a bit better in this map, but I still don't like it. We'll play it through it one more time, just so I can get a second take. Okay, it looks like that bomb reset was intended to go with the woman speaking, saying "save me" in the background. It appears that's the reason for that. But it might have just been better to have the player duck during that part instead. That way you don't break some of the previously established guidelines for mapping in the game that I believe Jan has probably established himself, such as the bomb resets. Kind of surprised that they allowed that in, because to my knowledge, I believe that was one of the practices that were not allowed by him, if I'm hearing from the right sources. This is the part where it makes you say, yeah, this was Ruckus. Ruckus has a habit of really tangling your hands, sometimes to a great effect, and sometimes making a map feel really bad as a result, making you really have to use your wrist, and you do have to use your wrist a ton in this map. I prefer to swing with my arms and really get that workout action going, but it feels pretty good in this one. He's had worse offender maps that I've played previously in the past. I know Freak doesn't like it that much. And I'm guessing that was the issue with the glide map that Ruckus initially made too, was the riskiness of it. But it is nice to have a variety of mapping styles in the game. So that's a lot. That's what people would consider a gallop, is when you have a single note directly followed by both hands hitting at the same time at a very close interval between the single note and the double. It works a lot better in this scenario because they're up notes and they're directly connected, so to speak, and it's easy to read. So a good detail. Clever patterns by Ruckus here. And I like how he finds a way to fit these wide crossovers into the map too. I really enjoy how he's figured out how to manage to get really taboo mapping practices into there. And he's basically just doing it by making sure the stitches connecting all these patterns are placed in just the right way to lead you to it. A really thoughtful approach by him. So when you hear that woo part and it goes up in the air, that's pretty good, but I think it could have been done a little bit better because I know they like to attach patterns in accordance to the music, and that's a pretty good approach to that specific sound. But as I played it the second time, I couldn't help but think, could this have been done better? And I think maybe you could have done something that I saw Yeazer do in the Thunder map. He had blue hand underneath the red going up into the air and across to the corner. That could have been a better approach to that sound. But again, what he does still works. Oh. So when I talked about triangles earlier, some would consider this a triangle, but I don't think it actually is. Yeah, let's see. Hitting down, backhand, forehand, and then this up. This up, so backhand, forehand. Yeah, you almost have to hit that as a backhand hit. So, so I guess Ruckus did do the triangle in there. I heard someone in BSMG complaining that Light It Up has a triangle in it, but otherwise it's the best map. Well, it appears Ruckus did that on purpose to fit the lyrics of the song. So, good shit, Ruckus. And at least he did it where there was a musical pause, so it's not really abrupt feeling. If it's abrupt feeling to you, maybe you're not quite at the skill level required to play this. I'm really surprised to see that they're allowing Ruckus to do this sort of lighting effect right here. Because he's switching really quickly between the red and blue color, and usually that's the biggest offender for giving people epileptic attacks or seizures. It's almost always from switching red to blue really quickly. So I'm surprised to see that they're allowing him to do it. The one thing going in his favor though is that he's not making them extremely fast. They seem like they're spaced out 1/4 of a step, which is a 16th beat in musical notation. If they were something like 1/8 or 1/16 and they were done as fade events, it might be an issue because fade events are 20% brighter. Or maybe they're 25, I forget. The game does have a warning about that kind of thing before you play, so I guess they're legally protected, so to speak. The health and safety warning. Really cool transition right there. Another bomb reset. I still consider it to be lazy. So there's a triangle right there as well. And Ruckus does that kind of triangle a lot as well. Having the right hand go all the way over here, immediately followed by a lazy backhand that kind of flips into another down. It works a lot better than most triangles. Sorry for the ping again. Let's play it one more time. Here's Breathless Custom Map does that same thing, where it has that lazy hand flip. Right there on the blue. And here's the best part. If I can, I'm gonna focus instead of talking, but this is the best part. Oh, Saber, come back. My health had depleted too low by that point. I just can't hit it for some reason. Oh. Let's give it another shot before we jump in it. I like how I said at the beginning of this, I definitely don't need no fail. Alright. You know, I have too much pride. I'm gonna build up some health before we get there. Oh, I just can't hit it. I remember the first time playing this map, it was extremely easy. I'm not sure if I'm just out of practice or because my bed is literally right here and I'm kind of smacking it. So I'm going to reset my view. There we go. One last time. I just can't hit it today for some reason. I think I know what the issue is. I'm gonna cheat. That's definitely not it. I'm just bad today. I guess you'll just have to take my word for it that I can normally play this. You get it, I'm bad. I'm playing just with risk now. same patterns from before. A triangle, but it's done during a pause, so it's fine. Slight concern for a controller smash there, but I didn't thankfully hit my controllers together. And then he has that little clap to the inward facing notes, which is a nice touch as well. Probably did so bad because I played Ghost for 25 minutes. But you'll have to take my word for it. I got an S rank on it, so. Alright, we can turn off No Fail now. Really good map. I didn't point this out during the stream part. I've been kind of gassed from playing Ghost for 25 minutes, but there's some inconsistencies in that stream pattern at the end. I noticed them. I was watching Umbernox's playthrough of this video on YouTube, playing it at like 50% speed, and there's a ton of inconsistencies in that stream at the end. That will contribute slightly to why you're missing notes. I don't think it was 100% optimal, all the placements of those. One example is, I believe he has, sometimes he'll do a diagonal down here, followed by an up far over here, and sometimes it's a straight diagonal. It's not 100% consistent across the board. If you don't know what I mean, you can also watch Umbernox's playthrough of this map. Just slow it down and you'll see what I'm talking about. But overall, super good map. It's the most immediately satisfying of these three because it doesn't have any little hiccups in it for the most part. Alright, next map is Crystallized. So Crystallized is a fun story. It was mapped by Great Yazer. And this was the map that a lot of people saw and was like, wow, Beat Games actually, you know, they know how to make a good map. It's the first map that was super fast that people saw and was immediately enjoyable. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. I am still gassed from playing Ghost, but I'm getting a little better. There was a reset there, but plenty of time to react. Another thing to keep in mind about this map is that initially the note jump speed and offset were slightly different from what it currently is. They spawn closer to you. I did see some people complaining on Steam, Reddit, and the BSMG that this map feels harder than they remember. It might be because of that, but for some people it'll be fine. First thing I want to point out is that horizontal note that goes over here. I think I mentioned it in my initial review of this, but I'm not a fan of that particular placement. There's a couple of sharp transitions throughout this map too to keep in mind. Again, Yazer really likes his horizontal notes, as do I. And he does those a lot too, those wide crossovers. Really good transition there too, really unique feeling. A lefty stream, but not hard at all. It's only 174 BPM. Keep that in mind. Again, doing that wrist reset that I mentioned Ruckus does. So this transition is actually quite good. Let's go into practice mode. I think I'm a little off. Triangle right there, but it's not very fast. Triangle, not bad though. Actually, that might have not been a triangle. That transition was almost perfect. I think there's a way you could have made it a little better though. I think the issue is the red note I'm having going outward here that's causing the miss. Yeah, it appears it might be that red note. It's either the red or the blue that comes just after as we're descending from that pattern. I think maybe either adjusting one of those will make it a lot more easier to play, but necessarily doesn't have to be as easy as it can be, because sometimes things are just hard to be hard. Fun transitions there. Fun stream. Some inline streams, but they're done so briefly to where it doesn't matter and it feels instinctual. There's also some patterns there that are mirrored later on ahead in the map, and one of the diagonals in the bottom row are not mirrored properly. I don't know if it's on purpose or if it was an accident, but I'm leaning towards accident. I don't exactly recall where it's at. If you check the Beat Saber modding group Discord and ask Kaival Evan, he'll show you exactly where it's at. I'm actually failing. I'm starting to agree with the people who said this map is harder because they changed the offset. I'll just play a no fail to get the song over with. But this is the part that wowed a lot of people. Actually, just for the benefit of the doubt, let's put it at the original settings. It was originally 18 and 0, I believe, if not 17 and 0, but I'm pretty sure it was 18 and 0. Really weird transition there. That little transition there was kind of like that one part in the OST Overkill map. You're mapping that that little triplet. I know technically it's not a triplet. It's at 1/4 of a step as opposed to a third. But you mapped it right. Blue, red, blue, blue, red, blue, repeat. If you had done it blue, red, alternating perfectly and repeating, it would have been so much more difficult to play that pattern. Yeah, I think I'm still utterly destroyed by Ghost earlier. I'm playing mostly with my elbows as opposed to my full arm. But again, I promise I'm not crap. I have an S rank. Alright, Cycle Hit is the next map. People weren't happy with this one as much, but I find it superior to Crystallized to this day. Haven't played it in a while. Maybe I'll change my opinion, but we're about to find out. The custom map of this that came out a while ago was so bad. And I remember Bandu having a video saying this is the best map ever made for Beat Saber. I don't know if that was clickbait or what, but it definitely was not the best map at the time. Not by a long shot. Interesting stream. And I really like that little boom. Oh, I keep forgetting to play practice mode. When you hit that boom note, you're actually resetting. And I'll show you again. Yeah, I'm just not on my game after Ghost, huh? That right there. You're supposed to reset your hands after that big boom, and it makes sense because it's like bam, like you're hitting. The album art for this it shows baseball players, so I guess it kind of makes sense to do that big smack into down notes immediately afterward. Even though I described earlier, usually when you do that, the right hand is biased to go up and the left hand is biased to go down in most scenarios. But this one, you go up with both, and it makes sense. You could have done a bomb reset there too, alternatively. Not a full-on strip, but maybe just 2 bombs over here to promote your hands to go over. That seemed like, was that a triangle? I really like these little angles. There's a reset there, not a big deal. Same stream from earlier. A reset, and that part was kind of awkward right there. Yeah, right there, those horizontals, feels like a reset there. You made it work because there's a pause, but it's not the best transition. Ooh, that was really funky. I don't recall that pattern the first time I played this. Yeah, that was a really like fast gallop, but it worked because it was an up and it was directly connected to it, but weird to see. Now this song, we're in for the long haul. I think this is the longest song in the game so far. And I'm starting to feel it now. Eyes are drying up just a little bit. But sadly, I do not have video editing software on my current computer. So this all gotta be one take. That little up diagonal up there, I think, was a reset as well. That part was really cool right there, the way the blue hand was going back and forth. And there again, mirrored. I feel like you missed a moment right there for that. I feel like that should have been a double stack. So you had it where it was just 2 notes. I think it should have been 4, and have the wall knocked out of the way and push it back just a little bit further. So you get that really big smack that like that. I think would have been a lot better. Really good use of triangles here. I also enjoy that little ziplock pattern as well. Or zipper pattern, however you want to call it. That was a cool string too. Yeah, that was a kind of yucky to... Alright, we're in the home stretch. Here it comes. Pattern from earlier. I tried to bring it in the home stretch, but it suffers from some of the issues from the earlier maps. The resets midstream, basically just exploiting diagonals to make it seem like it flows. Most of the time it works. In this map in particular, there are moments where it doesn't. I apologize if you can hear barking in the background. Mail just arrived and I got two little shelties. Alright. Last song, the shortest song. A favorite of mine. A lot of people don't enjoy the song, but I particularly like the mapping style on the song itself. It's just so unique and different. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The weird transitions at the beginning, particularly, are one of the reasons people don't like it. And also the way it alternates left and right hands. But it feels stinky and I like it. For me in particular, I don't really enjoy this section because the wall's pushing me really close to my window. I have a really small play space compared to most people. And this is the part where people are like, screw this map. A lot of people just hate one-handed parts. But as long as you don't space the notes too far away from each other, like in this map, I think they're fine. Also, there seems to be musical context for every time you transition to a horizontal note here. I want to go back to that. I keep forgetting. See if we can find it. Okay, so we're going backhand. I guess you're supposed to hit backhand, backhand, forehand there. It works. There's a musical pause. Now this is another part that really messes with people, but it's one of my favorite parts. Did I break it? This. But it alternates well. It's actually going forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand there. You just gotta be prepared for it, really. Oops. I paused the song because I swear to God, in the background of the song, I heard somebody say Skylar. reset there as well. Every time there's been a reset so far, though, it hasn't been a big offender. And a little piano string action going on. I feel like more could have been done here for the lighting. It's such a long break, and there's stuff going on in the background very prominently, and the lights are just like... And you complained about my original Sandstorm lighting. Come on, man. Come on, mate. And here comes the big bullshit part. This. But the best part. Oops, tracking. This is so good. Oh, fuck. You got me there, buddy. That drop back there was just so good. Cool little crouch wall at the end to go with the psh. My favorite of these three, to be honest. A lot of people disagree. I just have a different taste than most people. I like the taboo, the creativeness. It just seemingly suffers from some of what the old maps had issues with. It's just some notes are just slightly not where they should be, so you can hit them more easily and comfortably. There's some resets in there that I think even if Freak were to remap this now, he would probably change quite a bit about it, but keep some of the cool fun stuff during that last drop. Dog's going crazy right now, so it's probably time for me to let him out. So I'm gonna end this review there. I didn't give as much detailed feedback on the last three. I figured I'm tired anyway, and there's an existing review of these three maps if you want to check out on my channel. So if you want a little bit, maybe more detailed analysis on these three maps, you can watch that video as well. But main feedback is most of this stuff is really good. Just some bugaboos, especially with Exit This Earth's Atomosphere. Some inconsistencies in the titles of the song. But that's about it. I'm gonna go take care of my little shell teas. See you next time.